No man is more professional than I. I am a 1% man. I am not above or below any man. I'm training my mind. I'm building my body. I'm connecting to my soul. I'm investing my money. Welcome to the 1% Man podcast. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everyone, to the 1% Man podcast. I have my good friend here with me, Kevin Carr. Kevin Carr is an accomplished author, speaker, and television host and personality. Kevin, welcome to the show. My bad.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. So how is Mexico treating you?
Oh, it's good, man. It's love. Weather's great. The food is lovely. The tequila is tasty. You know, life is good.
Okay, so before we get into today's topic, I want to ask you, Kevin, 3 questions so we can get to know you better.
Okay.
Number 1, what's your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is red, probably because I like bright colors. To be honest, that's the easiest way I can answer. I just like the way it looks.
Nice. I do know your Instagram is like flush with all red, so I guess I should have guessed that, right?
I love red. When I was young, when I was a kid, my father had a cherry red Corvette, so I'm sure that has something to do with it.
Okay, I can dig that. So number 2, what is one value you would teach all men in the world that would make it a better place for everyone?
Oh, wow. That's a hard-hitting question for you to start the interview.
I should have prepped you.
Right. I think that,
What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like right away?
I would say if I would say the most important thing for people in general, but specifically for men, is to learn the importance of self-awareness. So it's kind of twofold, right? It's the importance, I would say it's the importance of being self-aware. And what I mean is knowing kind of exactly who you are and where you are at any given moment. And then also the second part of that is having the fortitude and the maturity to be able to articulate that to everyone that you come across.
Now, why would having, that fortitude and also that self-awareness, why would us as men learning that make that a better place for everyone?
Because it does a few things, right? It controls all your interactions. So specifically when you can talk about business, it controls how you interact and how you treat people in terms of relationships, in terms of dating. It just allows you, it's a certain level of ownership that comes with that will, in my opinion, it creates a trickle down effect. And so when in terms of dealing with women, in terms of dealing with business, it allows you to be kind of transparent and allows those people that engage with us to have a clear view of what the rules of engagement are, right? So there's clarity there. And so what that does is it avoids miscommunication. It avoids what could be maybe unnecessary heartbreak. And it just allows all parties involved to operate intentionally.
I like that. So self-awareness for us as men, that helps us to communicate. That helps us to be direct. That helps the other listener too, or the other parties to know exactly what's going on and what we want and what they want. So there is no miscommunication or misalignment at all.
Right. Well, it can be, but you're not responsible for that at that point, right? Like if you're clear, then I'm not always responsible for your interpretation, right? As long as I'm clear in terms of what my expectations are, what my intentions are. And then even in that self-awareness is really, knowing who you are. So knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your weaknesses are, what you might need to work on, where you might need to grow. It's all encompassing.
Oh, wow. Okay. You see, that's the first time I've heard anyone, and I'm just giving you a little pushback to this, is that anyone ever say that if you communicate, then that clarity isn't on you. It's on the person that interprets that. We've always been taught that as leaders, especially as a man, if you communicate something and someone doesn't understand what you're saying, it's because you're not saying it right or in the right way. So what would you say to that?
Well, I would disagree a bit, right? Because sometimes when you communicate with somebody, they want to hear it from their lens and their unique perception. And so obviously, like there's a onus on you to be clear and to be direct. But again, you can tell me something. You can't control how I'm going to take that or what if I'm going to really, truly embrace what you said. Because sometimes you'll be clear and tell people something and then they'll hear what they want to hear. or they'll hear it based on, and we talked about this little before we started in terms of like, we have these desires in terms of marriage and things like that. Sometimes you can communicate clearly with a person and they'll take that information, but process it based on what their specific desires are and what they want from you.
Ooh,
right. So I think there's a few folds to that.
No, you know what, the way you broke that down, I completely agree. And it goes back to definitely what we're going to go into today. But last question before we move into today is, if you had to choose another profession to be an expert in, what would it be and why?
Another profession? Wow. That's a good question. It would probably be in, it would probably be in self-development. Somewhere along there, kind of similar, but I would maybe focus on like, again, it would be self-awareness. I would focus on spirituality. Like I would really try to dive into depths of like, what are the depths that make life in the world and the universe work? So if I had to kind of pick a focus, that would probably be it.
Kind of like, would you say in like the law of attraction space, or more on like personal like development coaching, as in like
it would be training? More so in the law of attraction than personal development, right? So it would be less. It would be less about self-improvement than it would be about kind of like self-exploration.
Oh, okay, sweet. That a lot of times my friends and I, we say, before I get too woo-woo, let me preface this. You know what I mean? But like that's like in like people kind of say like the woo-woo space, right? The real spirituality, right. Crystals, energy, how all that mix. Is that correct?
Yeah. In that arena somewhere, I would kind of find my niche in there. Okay,
sweet. I have to bring you back on, have to talk about that and talk in terms of how you got into that. That's pretty dope. So as we get into your expertise and the topic of the day, I want to ask, why should people listen to you on this topic? This topic of like, finding the right person in marriage. And then after that, backtracking and saying, man, you know what? This probably isn't the right person for me. Jumping the gun too soon. Why should people listen to you on this topic?
Well, I think that people should only listen to me if the content that they get from me, if they find it relatable and reliable, right? But I think that in terms of the process, in terms of my content, is really just about my focus is really on what that dating process looks like. So it's really about preparing you a few ways to find that person. So it's almost like looking at dating as a simultaneous journey. So just as much as you're trying to find who the right fit or who may be the right person for you, you're also at the same time finding yourself, right? So it's just about kind of figuring out, learning yourself, diving within yourself beneath the surface. And as you do that, you're kind of positioning yourself to find the right person. So it's really, I think what I try to focus on is really a twofold journey. It's just about obviously we talked a lot about, well, at least in the beginning, about self-awareness, about finding out, what you want, what are your values, right? What are your particular priorities? What are the things that you really need to be present to have a successful relationship? And then going through the process with that in mind.
Sweet. I like that. So first understanding who you are, then after that leading off and saying, okay, what does he or she bring to the table? And then from there, still working on both of you, and especially still working on yourselves and understanding how that moves forward. Now, moving forward from there, and I know we got into this before, but the biggest struggle I see a lot of us men go through is like, we jump the gun, right? We say we meet somebody and we fall into this infatuation stage, right? We're so infatuated with this person. We're like, this is it. I'm done checking the deuces. I'm out the game. I'm not single anymore. And then from there, we get to know them. And then we're like, man, you know what? This person isn't what I thought they were. Why is it that we jump the gun so much? And how do we backtrack, if there's a way to backtrack?
Yeah, well, I think some of that is just pure biology and science, right? Like you meet somebody and you get these chemicals reactions go through in your body, right? Like they say that, so some of that is just nature. And I think that that's a natural thing. I think that one of the ways that we can go through that process diligently is, I talk a lot about, it's important that first we know what we desire, right? So whether that's you want to be married at some point, whether that's a healthy, committed relationship, yeah, you want that clear picture idea of what you want. Once you got that, leave the house without it. And what I mean is a lot of times when we go on these dates, we want a wife and we sitting down with that in mind. I wonder if this person is my wife. I wonder if I'm gonna marry this person, right? Instead of just, let me just go and be present and engage with this person, right? Without attaching my specific desires to them. Let me engage, let me be present. Let me try to look through a lens and really just connect with you without that at the forefront of my mind. And as you do that, some of those, what that'll do is it'll bring an ease to some of those interactions and allow you to really get to know a person. Because a lot of times when we meet somebody and they click and we have a great date and if, we get these butterflies and this chemistry and it feels amazing, a lot of times we start to hedge our bets. Right. So we start to lean in that direction because we have these feelings where, it could be a challenge, but it's important to just say, hey, let me go through this process and really just engage with this person to see if our values are in line. If this really, is this a mix that should happen?
Okay. I love that breakdown, and I want to go straight into the next question. Is so with the rise of intentional dating, right? Everyone's talking about you want to be intentional, right? How do you mix intentionality and also not leaving the house with the idea of being married? Right. I'll personally say for myself, like my big goal is like, I want to be married. I want to have kids and a house and, all that. Right. The whole American dream and a little more. But at the same time, how do I leave the house without that, but also have the intention of, if I'm talking to somebody, being intentional about moving the relationship forward too?
Right. It's the same way you do anything else. Like once you got the intention, that's your intention. Right. So it's just like, let's use working out as an example. So you want to say you want to lose weight or you want to gain muscle. Yeah. That's your intention. It may take you 12 to 24 months to reach that intention, but daily you're going to go through that process with that overarching intention in mind. But it's every time you go to the gym, you're going to be frustrated if you're saying, did I put this 12 pounds of muscle on? Right? Like you still need to go through that process. You see what I'm saying? So the intention kind of sets your sail, but you still got to actually catch the wind and go through the process.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. So the intention is like your foundation. And so, but you still want to go through the journey to get to that place. So as you engage, so the intention really helps to set your rules of engagement. So it's like, okay, I have this intention on at some point, I want to be married. Like this is my goal. And so, okay. So as a result of that, I might not be traveling around meeting people and having one night stands. Right. Like it just makes now your attention should really shape your behavior.
Oh, okay.
And so when you're meeting with people and you're engaging people, so I've been in seasons of life where I wasn't looking for a relationship. So I'm a little more lenient as I engage with women. And I might be like, I know I'm not going to marry this person, but I'm not looking for a relationship anyway. We can kick it for 6 months. Right. Like, but if my intention on this is what I want and this is what I want to purposely move towards, that changes the rules of engagement.
So just to kind of, summarize what you said, but really understanding what you're looking for right now, even though you're not leaving the house with it, it's already on your mind. So just because it's on your mind, it doesn't have to be at the forefront of your mind and push. And when you do meet somebody, you don't have to push your intentions or your intentionality of getting married. The end goal doesn't have to be at the forefront of the mind. Like work your way towards that. So with that being said, in working out, we do have steps. We have measurable ways of tracking if we're putting on muscle or if we're losing weight. How do we track? Or is there even like a system we can use to track if we are moving along the way, or if this is a good time? Or is that just kind of like a self-awareness type of piece of like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this.
Well, I think it is a system, right? It's finding out if it's a good time. I think you got to you have to do that individually, right? You have to decide what are your specific benchmarks for, moving into the season of life. Are you at a certain place where you wanted to be career-wise or income-wise, right? Like you at that place. Are you ready, or at least pointing in the direction of your intention? Right. So if marriage is your intention, so what I try to tell people is that, okay, what are you looking for in marriage? You want a healthy marriage. You want it to look like this. Like, this is ideally what you want this to look like. And so I think the importance is, while you are in the space to start creating your life to fit that, even if the woman isn't there yet. Right. So it's kind of like starting building your life for what you say you want. And as you start to engage with people, you engage with them based on what that overarching intention is. And so you can kind of start that process along the way.
Yeah. And I want to throw this at you then. As a man, what do you think for us men in this new age? What's that first step for us to, in terms of being intentional and leading towards marriage? So I just want to get overarching theme of marriage, right? Okay. If that's our end goal as men, what is our first step, and what should we do? Is the first step, should we build our career? Should we build our money? What is this? Where should we go to? What is our first step for us?
I think if for each of us is going to be different, because we all at different places. So some of us are further along income-wise and career-wise than we are in other areas, right? Some of us are more further where in terms of personality, in terms of character. So it really takes us being honest with ourselves to say, all right, where am I? Right? Like, this is what I want. I want to be married. I might want a family. So who do I kind of need to be to maintain that? Right? Like, what do I need to do? It's so funny. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I never thought about this. And he was saying, we were talking about life in general, but with anything. And he was saying what he'll do is sometimes he'll ask, I'm looking to do this. What would the 60-year-old version of me, what would his advice be for me? You see what I'm saying? So if you look at it that way, and so, okay, I want to be married and had a family. I want to be a husband. I want to be in a healthy marriage. What habits do I need to develop now? Like, what do I need to do? What do my benchmarks need to be?
Wow. I like that. Looking forward ahead and being like, okay, what the 60, because we always talk about what would you tell the younger version of yourself, but we never say, what would the older version of you tell yourself? I've never heard something like that, right?
I never thought about that, but when you look at it that way, it's like, wow, okay, I can see that. Like, you need to start preparing this way, right? Like, maybe you're already good career-wise. Maybe there's some character things that you might need to do. Like, maybe you need to stop watching porn, right? Maybe you need to stop being promiscuous. Whatever that is, you just start preparing for that now.
So and then I want to touch on this before we end. I know time is running out, but you talked a lot about self-awareness and self-development. So I think a big piece is also listening to that little voice inside of you, right? That voice that's always speaking to you. How do we as men kind of activate that or grow to trust that voice a little more?
So, well, I think it's a process, right? Like, it's a daily thing. And I think that for each of us, again, it's going to be different. Like, for some of us, you might use whatever particular faith that you kind of subscribe to. That might be your help in that. So I think that for each of us, it's going to look a little different. But I think that it's just developing some sort of habitual practice in terms of tapping into that part of ourselves. And so whether that's meditation, whether that's prayer, I think it's just developing, figuring out like what that practice is, and then kind of working that muscle just like we do anything else.
Love it. Now, Kevin, so we all know that, the pandemic hit and a lot of things went on. So what are you doing right now to stay alert, to stay alive, and also just to still have an excitement and be inspired by life?
Yeah, I think for me, when the pandemic hit, it allowed me to really, I just took the time to really focus on, hey, listen, the way I live, the pace I live at, I don't have to live this way. Like, people in other countries and other places and other cultures, they don't necessarily live like that. People before me didn't live like that. So it helped me to really slow down and really kind of take a dive into determine, how do I want to kind of live my life? Right. And so for me, I just kind of used the time to kind of back off a little bit. And I think we mentioned before, I'm in Mexico right now. I've been in Mexico for the past 7 weeks. For me, it was the energy in the States was between what's been going on racially, between what's been going on politically, you talking about social media. Like, I just was like, you know what? I want to kind of be in a different environment for a little bit as I begin to kind of, work on books and stuff like that. And so, that's what I've done. And it's been a heaven sent for me.
Yes. Love it. Love it. So before we go, I always want to give our guests the last words. So what is something that you want to tell everybody that's maybe on your heart, something that you've learned or a lesson or value or something that you want to share before you go?
I think that, it's just, hey, listen, we are in unprecedented times all around. We're all of us. I think this is the first time in a while that we can say that every single person on this earth is living through something they have never experienced. And so I think that it's important to keep that in mind. And you're going to go through ups and downs. Make sure you be kind with yourself, extend yourself some grace as you extend it to other people. And then just to really take the time to really decide what it is that I want going forward, set those intentions, whether that's relationally, whether that's in terms of business or personal or, fitness related, and then start working towards those things.
Perfect. Totally love that. Kevin, thank you for coming on. And thank you for having, coming on the show. Excuse me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate that. But brother, you heard this here first. Until next time, your legacy starts today.
My man.
Thank you, my friend, for tuning into today's episode. This means so much to us over here at the 1% Man community. Now, we want to extend a hand of gratitude to you. So I have a free gift for you. All you have to do is go to www.the1percentman.com/podcast gift. This is an exclusive gift for listeners that tune into our podcast. So go over there, get that free gift as well. And now I have two simple acts of you. One, hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment and a 5-star review, because that helps us to see what you love about the podcast, and that helps us to bolster up in the rankings so more people can find us and listen to this pertinent information that we have for men of today's age. Last but not least, I want you to go back and listen to this podcast. Find just one thing that you can implement in your life today so you can move forward. Remember, progress over perfection. And till next time, my friend, your legacy starts today.